You are listening to the Practicing the Art of Small Business podcast with Shannyn Merlo and Julie Parker. Enjoy this conversation about business, leadership, and the self-awareness journey to great success.
Welcome, Julie, and welcome, listeners, to Practicing the Art of Small Business. Julie, we're on episode number 37.
Episode 37. Wowee, that's fantastic. Welcome to you as well, Shannyn. Did you say welcome to me? Maybe you didn't.
Thank you.
Hello, Shannyn.
I think I did say welcome to you. You can
you
check over that.
Welcome.
Hope everyone's welcome. We've got the doormat rolled out that says welcome, the welcome mat.
How funny is that? My first thought went to being a doormat. Oh, that's – how have I linked that?
Do you know what, Julie? There's enough of these episodes that's Shannyn's therapy session. If you want this one to be Julie's therapy session.
Why Julie feels like she's a doormat. I don't. What are we talking about today, Shannyn?
Oh, Julie, little bit of controversy. We're going to have a poop emoji in this episode title.
I'm going to draw a poop emoji so I remember to pop it in there.
Yeah. So, Julie, I'm calling this the title of this episode. My staff are crap, but I don't have time to manage or train them.
Oh, what a rare thought small business owners have. And this is not a besmirchment. Is that a word? This is not to besmirch employees. It's not that. It's just the frustration level that some employers move through where they go, oh, my God, everything's just so shit. But I don't have time to do anything about it.
Yep. So, I mean, do you think that this is an isolated incident, or do you think that this is a challenge that many small business owners have in your experience?
Well, as you know, Shannyn, I do work with teams, dental practice teams, and I would say
I do know that.
I've only ever really come across that kind of line about once, I don't know, a week.
Once a week?
So, yeah, I think many people have that thought.
How long have you been running your coaching business for, your practice?
From 2014.
So what's
years.
that? That's 8
12
years? 12 years?
No.
14.
8 years. 8 years.
8 years. Yeah. So if we do 8 by 52, that's, like a 400 and something. Yeah. If anyone wants to correct me on my maths, feel free to do so. So you've heard this many times.
Yeah.
And I heard it this week, which is kind of why I thought I'd bring it to the table. And I'll give you the scenario, and I want to give you the scenario because I can appreciate, and I do certainly appreciate the challenge that my client is having. But I also sort of shook my head and went, how do I help this client realize the ridiculousness of what they were saying? So they own a bricks and mortar business, and they had left one of their staff members who'd been around for a while to close up. And they have a closing up protocol. There was someone working in the back of the shop, but it was with a client. Let's call it, let's say it was something like a psychologist or some sort of environment. It wasn't, but it was some sort of environment where someone's locked away in a room out the back. So their receptionist essentially had to leave. It was time to go. Left the front door open, front of house open to the street, and left the key in the door because that receptionist thought, well, that person will need to lock up when I leave, so they'll need
already
a key.
Other random person could lock up for me as they walk past and recognise what I've done. It's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. So my client said, oh, I'm so frustrated. How could they do that? And I said, well, what's the training? What are you training? What are your protocols for that? And my client said, well, the protocols are all there and I just don't have time to train them.
I've written it down somewhere. They can't find it. They don't know where it is. They don't know what it says. But I've written it down. Those protocols are there.
But my poor client, they are under an immense amount of stress. And so I'm not in any way belittling their experience. But I found it interesting to kind of go, saying I'm too busy to deal with this problem is so that was my, that was my reaction.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing for us just to share because, you know, we don't want anyone to feel that they've been put upon or anything like that. So to frame the mental spaces of this space of what we're talking about, when we develop a relationship, a coaching relationship with clients, that allows them just to speak freely, whether it's appropriate or not, whether they totally agree with it or not. Sometimes it's like, you know, you go out with a bunch of girlfriends and you kind of dramatize things so people will jump on board and try to understand where you're coming from. And so the employees out there wouldn't always publicly state some of the things in the way they say it to us. It's okay in that little closed environment. And it also doesn't mean that they think that their employees are stupid or anything like that. It just purely comes from a space of frustration, doesn't it?
Frustration, being really time poor. I think also any business owner listening will know that you've got way bigger things to worry about. You've got payroll to make. You've got bigger performance issues that you're probably dealing with. You're probably looking to hire the next person and have that going on. You've probably got a customer who's complained and you've got to deal with that. And then in the meantime, you've actually got a home life and your partner's there screaming because you're not home and you've got to go pick up the kids from soccer training. And the last thing that you want is an employee who's been around for a while to not use their head and kind of fundamental, basic fundamentals of like, oh, I've heard that they shouldn't leave the door open and the key in it with no one there. Like, you know, so I totally, it comes from a place of there's so much going on and the last thing you want to do is to be revisiting things that just seem, if you owned the business, you would never leave the key in the door and leave the door open. But that's some of the frustrations, I think, with business owners where they expect the employee to think like a business owner, but they're not. So they just don't have that.
Owner, but they don't. And they don't need to. Then that's not their role in life.
Exactly.
And I think within your title, that's where the challenge lies. My staff are crap. I do love this. My staff are crap, but I don't have the time to manage or train them. And the moment you have got in your head, time is poor. Or sorry, not time is poor. I am poor. So the minute you have inside your
Julie's a doormat and she's poor. Like, really, Julie, let's talk about this today.
Right now. So this is going on an upswing. The minute you have the mindset of I am time poor, then even if you could be managing your time more effectively, you'd still have this mindset, but there's not enough time. And when I have come across people, as we all have come across people, who get an extraordinary amount of stuff done and yet they can still do more. And then others that spend a quality amount of time complaining that they don't have enough time to get the stuff done and they don't get all their stuff done. And so it's not just the skills around time management, it's also the mindset. And so I feel like that mindset contributes enormously to their level of frustration when these sort of situations come up.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you're the epitome of mindset around time, and we could do a whole episode of Julie's jumping into Julie's brain and mindset because I think it's brilliant.
No longer a doormat now.
But you know, Julie, you've just got some sort of insight into infinite ability to get things done, and I think that means that you do get so much done. And I have never, ever, ever heard Julie, kind of go, oh, I just can't, or I don't have time, or I'm too busy, or, you know, Julie just, and it actually makes working with you such a joy, by the way.
Oh, that's nice. So, I like that. Just going to quickly open my drawer.
Yeah. You're the yin to my pessimistic yang.
I love it. Well, I was asked recently on a podcast interview, what's one of your superpowers? I should have said that. One of my superpowers is that I've got more time than anybody else, and I get all my stuff done.
How brilliant is that, though? So I do agree that there's a mindset side of things. So outside of mindset, I think one of the things that kind of had me a little bit flummoxed.
Love the word flummoxed. It's a good word.
It's a good word. You know my other favourite word? Superfluous.
You say it beautifully. Superfluous.
The thing is, the word means that you shouldn't actually be using the word. And I just absolutely love. I actually love the lilt. Superfluous. It's such a beautiful word to
lovely. And just to quickly say, one of my favourite words is a Hungarian word, because Charles is Hungarian, and the Hungarian word is schlompos. And schlompos means you look unkept, untidy, don't look after yourself. And it feels like, I can't remember what the term is, when a word like bang, it sounds like what it is. Schlompos to me sounds schlompos. So I love it.
This might be a tangent too far, but have you heard of the German word that is called grief bacon or bacon grief?
Not bacon grease, but bacon grief.
Grief. Hang on.
Bacon reef?
No, grief.
Like I'm sad about the bacon?
Kummerspeck. Kummerspeck.
Kummerspeck.
Kummerspeck is grief bacon. It translates to grief bacon, and it's what happens when you eat when you're sad. It's the German word for like eating when you're sad.
Oh, man, that could be my middle name. Whenever I feel bored, sad, happy, excited, depressed, I feel like eating.
I think we do need a therapy session for Julie. I've certainly had my fill here, so.
And you know what the word is? And when a word sounds like the definition, like bang or schlompos, it's actually onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. There you go.
Julie, I reckon we could have like a product ascension model here where we just we have a podcast where we try and articulate new words.
Because we're obviously good at it.
Obviously good. Anyway, back on track. Thanks, listeners, for going on a little segue journey there. Another word I like. But the thing that I was flummoxed about with my client was that they were in this space of frustration but weren't ready to take responsibility for it, or didn't want to, or felt frustrated about having to take responsibility for it. And I think I can totally get it. But at the same time, do you think as business owners where the buck is stopping with you and you're on the tools, do you think we can abscond from our responsibility when we're frustrated with our team members?
We can, but we then can't complain about the performance of the team member. And the results that we get. It is all about responsibility, Shannyn. You're absolutely right. Because what is responsibility? It's taking ownership. What is not taking ownership of a problem? Just complaining about it and not willing to do anything about it. Because what I often find as well with clients that do say, I need training my team, and the common one for me is my team members need training. And I say, when can I come in for half a day and sit down with all of your team members and go through some training? Oh, we don't have time for that. We've got patients to see. We can't close down for half a day. They won't come in the weekends. They can't do an evening session. We can't do that. And so when you are the one, you really, as the business owner, you're the only one that can do something about it. You're the only one that can take ownership of it. The team members aren't going to stand there and take ownership over it and say, we're going to create time out of nothing and make this team training happen because we want to perform better, so you stop complaining about us. And it's absolutely up to the owner. And so when their comeback is, but we just don't have time, what I often find, which is why I say it's a mindset thing, is I will then suggest different techniques and methods of finding the time, and I'm hit with no. Do you find that? And that's not taking responsibility. That's not taking full ownership.
Well, I think what it says to me, I encourage people to get rid of the language around "I'm too busy" and to change it to "I didn't prioritize it."
Ooh, oh, yes, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Isn't that because that actually, I think a lot of people viscerally feel it when they don't, because that's taking responsibility. Look, I actually didn't prioritize it. I didn't put it on my list high enough on my list because I didn't actually see it as important. And so then it kind of is the question of, well, is it then that important? Should we even be talking about this, or should we be talking about the things that you did prioritize? Anyway, so I do think that there is definitely a mindset side of things, and I definitely think that it's about understanding the why of why the business owner would want to allocate time to it. I think I've recently done some training, Julie, and one thing that I realised is I've become very consultative, and what I mean by that is not collaborative. I haven't been coaching. I've been like, people tell me a problem, I tell them a solution, but I don't actually engage them in a coaching narrative as much as what I used to. And so they would say, I had this problem with my staff member. I would say, here's a suggestion of how to solve it. And then they will say, but I don't have time to do that. Whereas if I actually stopped and said, okay, why do you think it's important for you to solve this problem? Why do you want to have this dialogue? Why is it important for you to spend time actually devoted to fixing this?
Yep.
Then I think my clients would actually be more on their own bus as opposed to problem and solution. And so I think when we're looking at, if you're a business owner and you are thinking that your staff are crap and you don't have time, to actually just sit and really kind of question, why do I want to solve this problem? And it's because you're going to be wasting time chasing your tail. You're wasting time repeatedly saying exactly the same things. You're wasting time because you're probably not got your protocols written, or the team members don't know where they are, or they're not referring to them, or they're not using them, and therefore that was a wasted time, and you're just repeating what's already written down. And then the fact that there's this frustration that's kind of hanging out, it's bleeding emotional time as well. And I could say that to a client, but it's very different me telling someone that this is their problem, and us, ourselves finding the problem and finding our own why as to why we would want to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Does that resonate?
Yeah, absolutely does. Absolutely does. One of the things, for me, and we've spoken about this before, is, to really identify the goal here. And the reason why a small business owner may be frustrated in thinking their team is crap and I therefore have no time to manage them and it's all so frustrating, is because with their current performance and lack of training, we can't meet our goal. Our goal, how wonderful would it be if we all had really smooth operations, new ideas coming in all the time, innovative thinking, everyone's getting along well, all our customers are being managed beautifully well. What a beautiful goal. Let's stop putting our hook into the problem and shift our mind, instead focus on the goal, where we're heading, and then start backstepping from there. This is where we want to go. This is how we're going to get there. This is what role each one of us play in getting there. This is how we're going to track if we're getting there. Alternatively, if that doesn't float your boat, if that doesn't spark the passion, then go to the anti-goal. Let's extrapolate out. If you remained in this mindset, if you continued to fail to deliver training and support from your team members, and their performance continually declined, then let's go to worst case scenario. What does your business look like in 5 years' time? What does your life experience within the business look like in 5 years' time? There'd be a high level of staff turnover, I'd imagine, because a lot of staff members don't want to hang around for a poorly led team or poorly operated business. And you've got staff frustration. Sometimes unhappy staff just stay because they're starting to lack a bit of confidence now and self-esteem. They don't feel like they could get another job somewhere else. And so then you've got your existing team members are unhappy and underperforming. Obviously, everything we do impacts our clients. They see that they're or feel or get a sense, or it's quite obvious that there has been a slipping of standards within your business. And so all of a sudden you're breaking down the trusting relationship you've got with them. Their loyalty is starting to suffer as well. You're getting fewer people recommended to your business from normally happy clients because they're no longer happy. You're getting a reputation, oh, they used to be good, now they're terrible. And also your levels of stress and concern and the gap, the bridge that it's going to take to bridge this gap of underperforming to high performance is getting bigger and bigger all the time. You're feeling like you're failing. You're feeling useless, inadequate, filled with shame, filled with regret. You turn up to work every day just ready for the next range of headaches. You can't sleep at night. You can't wake up refreshed in the morning. There's no enthusiasm left for your day. And so it really is, for future pacing yourself. And if the beautiful, shiny goal's not the thing that's really making you light up, then certainly sometimes the anti-goal, for me, the anti-goal is something that I want to run screaming from. And so that's where I can drive the motive. That's what drives the motivation at times.
So I think I don't have anything to add on that. I think you've just said that very beautifully. But what I was going to say is kind of we're in the how of like how do you shift from that my staff are crap, but I don't have time to manage or train them. We're sort of in that how space of how do we fix this? And we started off by talking about sort of unpacking our mindset around time and our beliefs around how we consider time and space and quantum mechanics and all that jazz. Yeah. Then we sort of talked about understanding the why of why would you actually spend time fixing this problem. And so there's the goal or the anti-goal. Once we've kind of like, okay, I am fine. Time is infinite. I can create my own time. I am a time master. I don't know. I should be asking what my mindset should be because Julie is the antithesis.
Man, you took me up. If anybody bumps into me in the street, they're not quite disappointed.
Of time management. Then I've done my goal. I really want to achieve this. And if I'm getting bogged down in this, I'm never going to achieve that. And at the same time, I've gone future pace on keeping doing this problem and realize the future is bleak. So I've done all of that. Now I'm in the space of, right, I have to train and I have to manage them. Julie, do you have any suggestions of how to train and manage my team effectively so that I do it with the least amount of time, even though I've created more time. I'm very good about time. But how do I do it so it's time efficient, effective, and something that I can ideally not ever have to do again? Because if we tell a business owner that, one and done doesn't exist, they're not going to be very happy with us. So how do I fix it, Julie? Give it to me.
Okay, baby. First of all, and I've touched on them already. First of all, you create a plan. The way you create
I love a plan.
Pardon?
I love a plan.
Yeah.
I love a plan for my plan.
Oh, here's a plan for your plan. So these are 6 questions. I've added a 7th, though.
Ooh.
Or are they 5 questions? I've added a 6th. I think it's 5 questions.
Julie's done 3 times 2 plus 2 minus 1 equals the number of questions that she's got for you to work
English
through.
Class before. Now we're doing a mental, maths class as well.
If you're still with us, congratulations, you're as nutty as we are.
These questions I learned from Sandy Roth. She is a most magnificent human being. Unfortunately, she's retired. She's from America. She was a police officer and a psychologist. Her husband was a dentist, so she was in the dental patient communications and team communications space. Brilliant human being. Love her. So pleased. I've got about 8 hours worth of her stuff on audio that I listen to all the time because it raises me back up to that standard of speaking well and reminding me of her lovely insights. Her questions, the answers to her questions create the plan. Always better, as we know, if we do it as a bit of a group or leadership group. If you have to do it on your own, do it on your own though. Question number 1, where have we been? Sometimes that is a more crucial question in some instances than others. For example, if there's been a practice that I've worked with, or if there's a business that's been around, it's a family-run business and it's been around for 40 years and the staff really haven't changed over much, it won't be as a relevant question. But I've done work with teams that have gone through quite a bit of disruption, breakdown of business partnerships and splitting of teams and a lot of angst there and unsureness. And so sometimes that can be quite a relevant question. So where have we been? And in the context of what we're talking about now, where we've been is we used to be organised. People used to do their job really well. The performance used to be really high. So where have we been? Where are we now? Right now we're in pain because there's no time for training. People need to increase their performance and they don't know how to, etc. The third question is, where are we going? So what does success look like, to use your term that I love so much? What does success look like? Let's imagine this very well-operated business with all the team members doing what they're supposed to be doing. What does it actually look like? Let's get really specific and let's develop a whole series of goals, such as client relationship goals, client attraction goals, team culture goals, all the things. The fourth question is, how are we going to get there? And that's that bridge. This is where we are right now. This is where we want to go. Let's throw around ideas on strategies that we can adopt that will get us there. One of those strategies, what you're talking about, what are we going to do, is maybe we're going to pay an external person to come in and train us in certain areas. Maybe we are so time poor that we're going to get an external facilitator to come in to make sure we get our internal operations organised. Maybe we allocate a couple of team members within the organisation because when we really had a look at it, we actually do have the time. We just thought we didn't, and we can actually get all that done in-house. So how are we going to get there? The fifth question is a beautiful one that many, many people miss. What role will each one of us play in getting there? That stops that whole, we keep identifying a whole bunch of goals and a whole bunch of plans, but then Monday comes and we're doing everything as normal. That's because people, the individuals within the organisation, didn't know what was required of them personally, what their level of responsibility and authority was to play a role in achieving those goals, in rolling out that plan. Yeah, so it's Sandy's 5 questions. I've added a 6th question.
This is the Julie Ascension model. This is the Julie, would you like to upsize your fries model?
That's right. That's right. We'd like fries with that. Exactly. Can I give you a large drink instead of a medium drink?
I would like to upsize. Is it upsize my Happy Meal?
Supersize.
Is that the term? I don't know.
There was a movie called, there was a documentary called Supersize Me, when that guy just ate McDonald's.
Would you like to supersize? Anyway, I'd like to supersize your learnings, Julie. Give me number 6.
Yeah, that's right. Number 6, how are we going to track that we're actually getting there? So just to quickly run through them again, where have we been? Where are we now? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? What role will each one of us play in getting there? And how are we going to know we're getting there? So develop some sort of key performance indicator process, maybe one, maybe a series of them, that will be something that you guys can track. The tracking is so important, not just to keep you on board to make sure your strategies are working and your plan's working, but it acts as a motivator. Oh, we are progressing. You just want to have everyone in that headspace. We are progressing, because sometimes change can be so incremental we don't see it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would do to further answer your question and to continue hogging the mic. I say, I love it. YouTube. So I encourage all the dental practices that I work with to use Evernote as a digital operations manual, but also open up a YouTube channel for the business. Have public videos that you can use as promotional tools for your patients and clients, and have unlisted videos where once you've got the link, you can play it, but the public can't see them. And they're all of your standard operating procedures. So part of your plan could be, if it's all around the operations of a standard day, recognize what goes into the operations of the standard day, brainstorm together. This is how we do it right now. This is what we want it to look like. Let's role play it, tweak it until it's looking fantastic. Video ourselves doing that. And then it can act as a reminder for all existing team members. If their performance starts to drop a little, you remind them to go off and look at that one video again, because it's just the area that you need a little bit of a tweak on. And for every new team member being onboarded into your organisation, they are learning from the source the ideal way of doing things. It's not being a changed message through Chinese whispers or anything like that. All your new team members are onboarding, and all your existing team members, so your whole team, are learning the same message to the same standard.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that. Can I add another complementary tool that might be useful for some business owners?
Yes, and let me see if I think it's good enough, if it deserves a compliment. Go for your life.
Okay. It may not, and therefore it may get wiped from the podcast, so that's fine. I love your questions. I think they're beautiful. I've been thinking a lot around how to teach business owners to train their team members, because I think part of the challenge is the how. I've got this problem, how do I fix it? But how do I do it really quickly? And I found a little coaching model that I really liked. It'll be on my socials as well. But it's called the fuel is my Aussie accent, the fuel coaching model, FUEL, fuel as in, gas in your car or petrol in your car.
I was going to say, because if it was the American one, it would be the gas coaching model.
Gas.
But I've got a feeling FUEL may stand for something.
and G is for guess how to get there. Except that they'll never learn it, and S is no. So the fuel model, and this is kind of a coaching model. F stands for frame the conversation. I think that if a business owner is really struggling with accountability with their team members, they often get caught up in the mindset. Again, it's a mindset thing around confrontation. So it's not a confrontation. We're just having a conversation. But I think giving permission to frame the conversation gives the business owner greater comfort of what we're trying to get out of the conversation. So when you frame it, you can say, we've got a problem. Here's what I want here's the outcome of the conversation I want to have. Yes. So that you're actually setting your team member, and this is probably more of a one-on-one suggestion, I would say, more than a whole team base, but you could still use this as a team base, but frame the conversations. So especially if it's a difficult conversation. So determine the focus, the purpose, and the desired outcomes. I like an outcome, Julie, so... The U for the fuel model is understand the current state. So I think that and I mentioned this before in terms of my coaching, that, they tell me the problem and I tell them the solution, but I actually haven't been sitting in the current state. And you sort of said, where are we now at one of your questions. But to understand the current state of the person's understanding of their knowledge of this process or this system or this thing. We often, I think, business owners are so busy, they're so used to just telling, here's a problem, here's how I want you to solve it. But they don't actually stop to find out where is the gap between what I want and what your understanding of what I want is, or your understanding or your knowledge of what it currently is. So if I go back to the client scenario, my client said that, well, we've got a process. I would be saying, in terms of understanding the current state, does the person know that there's a protocol? Do they know that there are certain rules for closing up? How would they normally apply those rules? What's missing? What stopped you from applying the protocol in the last time? So instead of saying you didn't lock up and you left the key in the door, understanding how did this actually happen, understanding like a root cause, why,
Yeah.
root cause kind of analysis to really unpack how do we fix this, not just as a, do it different next time, but really change behavior. So that's the you, understanding the current state.
Love it. That's just so golden, really, so golden. Once you train somebody in a certain thing, having them try to explain it back to you and the reasons why it's important things, gosh, it really does. One of the things that it would serve us all well to remember is that when we are communicating with somebody, we think they're understanding because they're paying attention, they're nodding along, they're listening clearly, and you think that they've taken away 100% of your message. Studies indicate it can be anywhere between 25 and 50% that they take on board.
So true. I was sitting in a client's office and I heard them give instructions to a team member, and they gave out about 10 instructions, and then at the end said, do you understand? And the person said, yeah, no worries. I said, and they've got problems with this person. And I said to them, so can I give you some feedback? And the things to note is that people only ever remember 3 things at a time. That's, generally that's prior to thinking about all of the interruptions that we have and our lack of focus and our inability to remember, just what's happening in our environment where there's so many other things that interrupt our thoughts. The other thing that I mentioned to my client is a good strategy is to actually say, can you replay to me what you think I've just said? Yeah. So then it falls, because I said to my client, I think what's happening is they want to please you. They know that you're busy. They don't want to stop you and say, look, I didn't understand, or let me give this back to you and just double check I've got all my notes right. And you want them to take responsibility for doing that. But you also have to teach them that it's okay to actually stop and repeat back. So one of those strategies is to kind of say, and this would probably be at the end of the training, come back to me, tell me what you've learned, teach it back to me, and I'll come back to that. Yeah. So once you've understood this current state, explore the desired state. So what does success look like? Similar to what you said, we want them to know what success looks like. And sometimes the exploration between understanding where we are now and where we want to get to, we can get a cognitive dissonance. So by asking questions and actually being really curious about how the other person sees where we are now and how the other person understands where we want to go, if you take the time, because we've got a mindset where there's infinite time and this is a good investment of your time, if we take the time to be really curious, we can understand where the dissonance is and then be able to solve the problem better as opposed to thinking we've solved it, but fundamentally we haven't. So check in on the desired state. The other way in the desired state is the way that we want it done doesn't necessarily mean it's the only way to get it done. And when you empower your team to be part of the process and to build their own plan, then they're more likely to actually solve the problem. They'll get on their own bus. So I think being able to have a dialogue, here's what I would like as the outcome. What are the ways that you think we can get there better? What are the ways that are stopping us from actually achieving this goal? How can you support me on helping to get to this end point? So that's the explore the desired state. That's the E Beautiful. On the fuel model. And then lay out a success plan. So in the desired state, we've sort of talked a little bit about it, but I think laying out the plan, which again is similar to what you said, how we track we're getting there. We then want to define a plan. We want to define who's responsible for the plan and the dates that we're going to do it. And then I haven't added this to the model, but I think that accountability, so let's call it a fueler.
I love it. I love it.
The accountability at the end, because what happens, again, I think, is that small business owners, they've got so much going on. They don't hold their team accountable to these goals that we've set. So what I would be recommending is putting on the action plan that the person is responsible for putting a time in the diary to meet up again to go through the deliveries of the plan that we've just talked about. And that's the first thing that they have to do. So I'm not saying that you, business owner, have to be responsible for everything, but you've got to put plans in place. So that fuel model, very similar to what you've put there, frame the conversation, understand the current state, explore the desired state, lay out a plan of success, and hold them accountable. Or it could be fuel her, like hold them accountable.
That's super. And I do compliment you on it because it is a complimentary method. I love it. I love it. And you can kind of throw in another process to help people with their plan itself as well. And so when you get to the point of your thinking and discussions where you are creating the plan, you kind of put a line across, a little arrow across, and then identify the different strategies that you could put in place to achieve the goals. And then for every one of those strategies, the list of action steps that are required to activate the strategy. And for every single action step, who is ultimately responsible for that and by which date as well. And I have a goals achievement plan template. If people are interested, I'll make sure I pop a link to it in the show notes. But that's where you can just keep that's your master plan sheet that you bring with you to every weekly, fortnightly, or monthly meeting. However quickly you want to get this plan activated. They're weekly meetings if you want it done quick, and they're monthly if you can take a whole bunch more time with it. But that can really help keep everyone on track. And, of course, patience is a virtue. The minute we're asking people to do things outside of their norm, give them the time to recognise the importance and start breaking into their usual routine with something new. Just give them the time to try, fail, slowly succeed in that too.
I want to also give a bit of a teaching model suggestion. Yeah. So the other thing is, if we're teaching someone something new, there are good ways of being able to do it. Here's some stats. I love a stat. This is from John Whitmore, who came up with the Grow coaching model, as it turns out. He was quite a foundational person in the coaching space, John Whitmore. So the recall, and we can put this in the show notes as well as a visual, the recall, once you teach something to someone, if you just tell them, after 3 weeks, they've got 70% recall. If you tell them and then show them, there's 72% recall after 3 weeks. But if you tell them, show them, and then allow them to experience it themselves, so them doing it themselves, there's an 85% recall after 3 weeks. Yeah. Now, those numbers are significantly less after a 3-month period. So after 3 months, if I just told you, Julie, here's how you do it, after 3 months, you'll have a 10% recall. Not you, because you would just smash it.
Because I'm brilliant.
The general population. Correct. If I told you and showed you after 3 months, you'd have a 32% recall. But if I told you, I showed you, and then you experienced it, then after 3 months, you'd have a 65% recall. So if I tell you to do something, after 3 months, there's a 10% chance that you remember it. Whereas if I tell you, then I show you, and then you show it back to me, so I observe you doing it, or you teach it back to me, there's a 65% chance that in 3 months I will have learnt it, or that person will have learnt it.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, when you're teaching something new, don't just tell someone. Show them as well, this is what my expectations are, and then observe them actually doing it with you. So that's really helpful from a customer service perspective. So let's say we were teaching someone to answer the phone differently. You can certainly have a script there. But the difference between saying, here's what I expect you to do, and picking up the phone and actually doing it yourself, and then saying, now the next phone call that comes through, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to provide you with feedback. Very different opportunity to learn and grow through that approach.
Oh, I am a huge supporter of that and incorporate as many role plays as I can in my team training because of all the benefits that the role playing does provide. Keep in mind too, our brains can't tell the difference between a real and a false memory. And so rolling through an ideal way of doing something over and over again, when we are next in natural space, when we're called upon to answer that phone, to do that thing, our go-to place will be to actually roll it out, even though we've never done it in a real life experience yet. Our brain doesn't think that way. Our brain goes, well, I've just done it before. I've done it 10 times before in the role play, so I now know how to do it. And the role plays can often also identify where the challenges or barriers for adopting this new system are. If you've got a welcome process, I know that when we had a bunch of Americans, used to come out to dental teams back when I was a wee young lass, and it was a bit too Americanized for the Australian public. And one of the things they used to get us to do back in the 80s and 90s was, as a receptionist, to stand up, and even as a dental nurse, to approach a patient and extend your hand out and shake their hand, introduce yourself. Now, we're talking about 19, 20, 21-year-olds, not this current generation who seem to be a bit more confident than my generation were when we were 20 years old. And it was really stepping outside the comfort zone. And so if we'd just been told what to do and do you understand? Yeah, sure. I stand up, I shake their hand and say, hello, it's Julie. Yet role-playing it out, you go, oh, I can't do it, it feels wrong, or I'm not confident enough, or that person's 70 years old, that patient's a 70-year-old person, I wouldn't feel confident to just extend my hand out to shake their hand. And that's where you start to identify the barriers too. So you're getting over the hurdles very early on in the piece as well, as also registering that physical experience, because I agree with you, the recall for it later on is amazing.
Absolutely. And I also, it's probably worth having a caveat around this. This is a model that we are not allowed to talk about because it's trademarked, but have a look at situational leadership, which basically says that your leadership style is dependent on the knowledge and experience of the person that you're actually leading. So we're making assumptions here that this is probably someone, I think the way that we've been talking in terms of training and things like that are probably people who are not your general manager in your business. So it is in context to the level of experience and the level of previous understanding and training that the person has. So take a personal approach to it as well. Don't treat your team like they're numbats if they're not a numbat.
And also I think too, it's worthy of speaking of the bias that we can develop for searching for the bad evidence of bad behavior or searching for the evidence of good behavior as well. Because if you are inclined, if you've got your mindset at the moment as a business manager or owner of my staff are crap, but I have no time to make them better, in essence, then shift that straight away. Start instead for looking for evidence of what they do well. And, while you're making a plan for improving things, it's certainly been my physical experience myself that when a team member keeps resisting one step of what I've asked them to do again and again and again and again and again, and I had a lot of frustration around it, then eventually I said, this is, damaging the relationship more than it needs to for this one system. She can do it differently. No dramas. Do it differently. It's not the way the computer system's supposed to work, but you're in this role. You've been in the role for a few years now. Hopefully you'll be here for years longer. It will really only affect you. So I'm going to take my hook out of it. You do it the way you'd like to do it. This one person said, oh, thank God. You've been on my ass with this. But when I took my hook out of it and completely I abandoned my attachment to a different outcome and instead loved her outcome, that afternoon I found myself, she is so great on the phone. I haven't noticed that the last few weeks. Oh, she is wonderful when she speaks with team members. Again, I've stopped noticing that for the past few weeks. And so we can have a situation appear far worse in our eyes than what it actually is because we've got the bias to be just looking for the things that are going wrong. So I think that's another mindset shift that people can possibly take, and instantly the situation may be improved.
And also, I don't know the psychological framework or explanation for this, but I know if someone thinks that I am, I don't know, not making sense, or I'm a bit stupid, or what have you, then I will do stupid stuff, and I'll be like, oh my God, I think this person thinks I'm stupid, and I have just done this really stupid thing, which gives them evidence to me being stupid. Yeah. And then I will find myself repeatedly doing the thing that I know is going to annoy them and give them evidence of me being stupid. And so, and that is a real thing that happens. We are not linear in our personalities and our skills, and we are influenced by the people around us. And if you don't believe that, go into a room with someone who is a similar personality style to you and notice how you either bounce off them or you grate on each other. And then someone who's an opposite, and again, you'll either bounce off each other and have that kind of opposites attract. And I'm not talking about a sexual or chemical. It's more like that person's really interesting. I find them curious because they're different to me. It's a different rapport, yeah. Or again, they're so different that they'll grate on you, and you will be different as a result to those people. Same thing in leadership. The way that you show up as a leader absolutely impacts the way that your team members are. They say it's, and when I say they, I can't remember who says it, but it's one of the things that they say. You need to give 5 positive pieces of feedback for every 1 negative piece of feedback to ensure that your staff aren't getting beaten down and kind of having a learned helplessness experience in your environment. So when we're talking about training and managing your team member, you definitely want to find, you have to, in terms of motivation for your team and keeping them excited and inspired to be part of your business, you have to find evidence of the good to balance any negative feedback that you, not negative feedback, any contradictory feedback.
Yeah.
Growth feedback.
Yeah. Points for improvement.
Yeah. Points for improvement. Thank you. So, Julie, we've kind of done a bit of a why. Why should we fix it? We've done a bit of a how. We've done the mindset, the goals, or the anti-goals. You love an anti-goal. We've given you some frameworks. What else do we need to cover off before we wrap this little baby up?
One of my things, as you know, is recognize when you are putting up resistance to something, because
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to talk about it.
When we're in resistance,
I just want to finish the podcast, Julie.
And that's what it looks like. Resistance looks like being opposing to any kind of plan moving forward. We can't do it. That won't work. We don't have enough time. I told you I don't have enough time. Those methods won't work in my work, with my team, in my life. And so I recognize that putting up resistance takes a lot of time and energy, both wasted. So the minute we embrace a challenge and go, yeah, bring it on, I'm freaking going to kick that one out of the park, shift that resistance to embracing it, and all of a sudden you'll find ideas flowing through your own brain because you've stopped putting that resistance up, and your brain's looking now for solutions instead of looking for reasons why things won't work.
If you are a little bit anti, I'm currently reading Learned Optimism from Martin Seligman, and oh my Lord, it is so good. Yeah. Turns out I'm an enthusiastic pessimist. No one knows that I'm pessimistic because I just sound so enthusiastic when I say
we can do it.
I'm like a little slimy eel, because you and I have had conversations where you've sort of suggested opportunities for growth, and I'm like, oh, that that's me being a slimy eel kind of jumping around. but actually pessimism is something that can be changed. But there's good reasons to, if you feel like you are a little bit on that negative frame of mind, it has really big impacts to your success. People who are pessimistic tend to suffer more from depression and depressive episodes. So if you are a little bit, I don't want to listen to any of this, nothing's ever going to change, this sucks, everything sucks, life sucks, pick up the book. It's really been eye-opening for me, and I'm only like 25% in. So
wonderful. Great suggestion. Because we must, for goodness sakes, to be able to be capable of any shift or change, increased level of happy, optimism, health, whatever, we must recognise we have command over our own thoughts, and it's our own thoughts that generate our experience of life. So we must claim that power. Thanks, Shannyn. This has all been very glorious, as always.
As always, Julie.
And thanks for summarising. Glorious. I don't know where you come up with it. Do you keep writing notes all the way through? You're very good.
Oh, have I summarised?
I thought you did. You kind of went through the things. Oh, maybe you haven't.
I have.
Shannyn, did you summarise?
I have kind of.
You were mentioning a few of the things that we mentioned.
I did do a bit of a summary, yes, but I didn't just do like the final rappity rap. But
okay,
I think I've done a summary. So
rappity rap.
You want me to do a rappity rap? All right. My rappity rap for today is: if you are telling yourself my staff are crap and I don't have time to manage or train them, number one, think about your mindset with regard to time. Have a why. Why should you actually spend time training and managing your team, and either setting a vision for a better life goal or an anti-goal of, if this behaviour continues, then what does the future look like? And that will drive your reason to find the time, even if you have a bad mindset around time, to manage and train your team. Then there are some ways to actually do the training bit. Julie had a couple of questions from Sandy Ross. Where have you been? Where are we now? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? What role will each person play within the plan? And Julie's ascension model, how will we track that we're getting there? And I suggested the fuel model. Fueler model.
Yeah.
Fueler. The fuel model: frame the conversation, understand the current state, explore the desired state, lay out a success plan. We also then talked a little bit about biases. Don't be biased. Do more positive than negative. And if you're a negative Nancy like Shannyn, read Learned Optimism by Martin Seligman. And I think that wraps us up for the week.
Glorious. Thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you at episode number 38.
Yay! Thanks, Julie. Thanks, listeners. Catch you at the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.